Hi everyone, to another episode of Dimitra's Dishes. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to make my cozy lamb and orzo stew. It's hearty, it's delicious, it all comes together in one pot. The lamb literally melts in your mouth and it's full of nutrition because there are carrots in here and vegetables. I even added some chickpeas. It's hearty and will just warm up your soul on a cold winter day. Let's get started. Okay, so we're going to begin with a boneless leg of lamb. This one is about 4.5 pounds. And I'll just trim off as much of the fat as I can. The fat is where a lot of that gamey flavor that lamb tends to have is. And if you get rid of it, you can save it and use it in other recipes if you'd like, or throw it out. It's up to you. Cut it into big chunks just so that way it's easier to eat. Keep in mind that once the lamb cooks, it's going to shrink a little bit, so don't cut the chunks too small. And then I have my Dutch oven heating over medium-high heat. I'll add a little bit of olive oil to it. And all of the lamb won't fit in the pot. If you were to put all of the lamb in the pot, instead of browning, it's going to steam. So we're going to do this in 2 or 3 batches. We're not even seasoning the meat at this point. We'll just do one batch at a time, about 3 to 4 minutes per side, or until both sides are nice and golden and they get a little bit of a crunchiness around them. This is going to add lots of flavor. Take the lamb out and do the other batch the same way and take that batch out too. At this point, you can discard the fat that's in the pot and start with a fresh batch of oil, like about a 1/4 cup of it, or you could use all the flavor that's in here. I would leave it in here because I love all of that flavor. But if you are not a fan of the gaminess that lamb tends to have, you can dump that oil out. It's up to you. At this point, go ahead and finely chop an onion and also peel 2 to 3 carrots and chop them up just like bite-sized pieces. The onion and the carrots are going to go into the pot, and I'll turn the heat off because the pot is scorching hot right now and I don't want the carrots and onions to get too much color. I want them to soften up slowly and release their flavor. The pot is also going to be deglazed at the same time by the liquid that the onion and the carrots release. So once they're nice and soft, it should take about 8 minutes or so. You'll turn the heat back on after about a minute or so the pot can just cool down just a little bit and then get to the right temperature. So once the onions are nice and soft, we're going to go in with 5 garlic cloves that are grated and just warm them through until they're fragrant. Next, we're going to put the lamb back into the pot. Season it with salt and freshly cracked black pepper. For 4.5 pounds of lamb, I'll start with 1.5 teaspoons of salt, and then we can taste it and add more later on. I'll also add 2 bay leaves, a little pinch of crushed red pepper flakes, a teaspoon of paprika, a heaping teaspoon of dried oregano. You can go in with a tablespoon of honey and 28 ounces or 2 cans of crushed tomatoes. You can rinse the can out if you'd like, just to get all of that flavor out of it. Next, we'll add about 6 to 8 cups of water and give it a nice mix. Bring the mixture to a boil and keep mixing so that way nothing sticks to the bottom of the pan. Once it comes to a boil, reduce the heat to a medium and put the lid on top of the pot. It's going to take about 1.5 hours for the lamb to fully cook. You want it to be nice and tender. The sauce is going to thicken in that time. You don't want it to be too thick because now we'll add orzo pasta. So we'll add 3/4 cup of uncooked orzo pasta. I also like to add a 15-ounce can of cooked chickpeas, also known as garbanzo beans. Just rinse them really well before you add them to the pot. And you can also add a little bit of salt to this because the orzo will need some salt. So about 1/2 to 1 teaspoon of salt is what you're looking for. Cook this for about another 15-20 minutes until the orzo is al dente and the stew will be nice and thick and rich. Give it a taste and see if the seasonings are right or if you need some more salt and pepper. You can add it in at this point. I also like to finely chop some parsley. Add the parsley with 1/2 to 1 teaspoon of dried mint. The mint really freshens up this dish and makes it a little bit lighter. And just like that, the lamb and orzo stew is ready. I hope you guys give this recipe a try. You can do other things with this recipe, so if you want to keep it gluten-free and leave out the pasta, you can totally do that. Leave the orzo pasta out completely. If you want to add some rice in here instead of the pasta, that will work. If you want to keep it lower carb, completely leave it out and add another can of chickpeas into it. It'll be delicious. And also keep it nice and protein packed and just really, really healthy and hearty and just so good. The orzo is nice in there, just balances everything out. But if you want to leave it out, like I said, leave it out. You can just serve this with a nice salad, some tzatziki. If you're not cutting out carbs right now, bread will just be perfect to soak up that delicious tomato-based sauce. Rosemary is something that I left out because I didn't have fresh rosemary, but dried rosemary will work too. You can just throw it in at the beginning of the recipe and it'll add flavor because rosemary and lamb and mint, those combinations go so well together. Let's do the taste test. This smells so good. And you see how the lamb is just falling apart? That is how it should be. It just should melt in your mouth and fall apart when you touch it with a fork. So good. All of those Greek flavors in there. Tastes so delicious. It's cozy, it's comforting, it's everything I want to eat when it's cold outside, and it's even cold here in Houston these days. So this is the perfect dish to put on the table. You can serve this to guests coming over. They will absolutely love it. Every time I serve this, I usually make my rosemary homemade bread and a nice salad on the side, and everyone loves it. I hope you guys give this recipe a try. The exact measurements are on the website, dimitrasdishes.com. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. I'll see you all next time. Yes, us.